and welcome to episode 48 of Mo Money, the investing and economics show for millennials by a millennial, where our goal is to educate, entertain, and empower a new generation of investors. I am, of course, the host, MC Mo, so let's get this show on the road. Now, this past week, the president of Pittsburgh, not Paris, Donald Trump, announced that he would be pulling out of the Paris Agreement, aka the Paris Climate Accord, aka the Paris Climate Agreement. I was incredibly disappointed by the lack of pulling out jokes that were made. Maybe if Trump's father would have pulled out, we wouldn't even be in this situation. Boom! That's one right there. Now, for those of you who have no idea what the climate agreement was, this is a definition from a very prestigious source. The Paris Climate Agreement was the first time 99% of the world came together and agreed to all do their part to effectively fight the causes of global warming. The agreement was agreed upon by every country except for like Syria and Nicaragua. The agreement stipulated that the world would work together to keep global temperatures from increasing over 2 degrees Celsius per year and shift their energy to renewable energy power sources. That definition is mine. I'm the prestigious source. So to dumb it down, basically all the countries of the world got together and said, this global warming thing is a problem. Let's all stop being assholes and do something about it. 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit is the number that scientists agree ice sheets in Antarctica and Greenland become unstable, and that would lead to rising sea levels. Rising sea levels means cities get wiped out, food sources disappear, the whole world is screwed, and we all die. Now let me just start off by stating this very clear fact. Global warming is a fucking real thing. It's not a hoax. It's not a conspiracy. Who would stand to benefit from it if it were? I don't think Elon Musk and the renewable energy companies have enough money to lobby every government in the entire world. The effects are clear. Obviously, we cannot prevent the climate from changing, but we can put a serious dent in our output. But to be honest, you've heard this all before, and you have heard it all non-stop since Trump made his decision. Everyone called Trump an idiot, saying this was his worst mistake, blah, 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 and go on to bash Trump's decision for the next hour. The problem with this is that the decision to stay in or pull out it's not that black or white. It's not that clearly good or bad. There's an argument for both sides. Now, did Trump seriously weigh both sides before his decision? I highly doubt that. He most likely said, fuck Obama, fuck everything that he ever did, fuck that, we're getting out. Not saying everything, most, half, 25% of what Obama did as president was good, but just trying to destroy everything one president did because you're an asshole is not making you a good president. Now, in this episode, I'm going to try to tell the more shades of gray story of the Paris Agreement. The story nobody's really talking about. I'm here to tell you right now the decision to stay in this agreement is definitely more difficult than it seems. Now, first, we will look at the agreement from a moral perspective. All right, this point isn't very difficult. Obviously, staying in the agreement was the moral thing to do. Staying in the agreement meant that we give a fuck about the earth, our children, and their future. It was a gesture of good faith that our country would try to do what was right. To back out is not exactly immoral, but it's a terrible gesture and a terrible message that you're sending to the world. Now, here's where it gets complicated. Let's look at the agreement from a policy perspective. First off, the agreement for the most part was garbage and terribly made. For starters, there is nothing forcing countries to adhere to the agreement. Signing it just meant that you would try. Every country would announce to the world their target goal, what they would do to reach it, and then they do their best to hit it. It's like some douchebag's girlfriend made him sign an agreement that he would try to stop cheating on her, but if he kept doing it, she wouldn't do anything about it. The whole ramification for not adhering to the accord is countries would shame you. Not like Game of Thrones, shame, 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 or the president would have to wear a penis on his suit like some twisted scarlet letter because he's being a dick. Basically, other countries would just like go on the news and talk smack about you. That's it. It's like when your mother would go, I'm not mad at you, I'm just very disappointed. Nothing cuts deeper for a child than to hear that. And even though Trump is a child, he doesn't have any feelings. The agreement had all bark and absolutely zero bite. Countries are not going to listen to the barking if it undermines the economic growth of their own country. The agreement also requires prosperous countries to pay for renewable energy resources for poorer countries. America is $20 trillion in debt. We don't have enough money for the poor, pension funds, all that. We sure as hell don't have enough money to pay for solar panels for all of the buildings in South Africa. If we happen to come upon any money, we could instead use that money to build solar, wind, water sources here in our country. On the flip side, leaving the agreement meant that we lost a seat at the table, and therefore we lost our influential voice in the discussion. When it comes time to discuss other matters, whether it be terrorism, trade, whatever, the USA might not be invited to the discussion. We cannot revert back to being isolationists. Nothing good comes from closing your doors to the world. Also, by backing out, other countries may not want to trade renewable energy goods and services with us. Or if they do, we may not be exactly their top priority, which would be bad. Finally, let us look at the economic side of the Paris Agreement, and in my opinion, the least talked about and yet the most important aspect. After Trump's announcement, the New York Times published an article highlighting small business owners who were thrilled by the decision, saying it was just like they won a big football game. Business owners announced that companies were bringing back jobs to the USA from other countries, they were hiring more, and business was good. The regulations imposed on businesses with the Paris Agreement weighed heavily on small businesses. To be honest, this is true for a majority of economic policies imposed by the government. There is a simple explanation. Regulations are expensive, and small businesses don't exactly have tons of money to spend on things like solar panels, renewable energy, and all the things the government demands from them. They have to cut jobs and wages to find money to pay for these new regulations. Can you guess who does have the money to pay for imposed regulations? Big businesses. Do you know why GE, Microsoft, Apple, Bank of America took out a full-page ad in the New York Times begging Trump to stay in? Is it because they just all of a sudden became angels? Or is it because they have the money to pay for these things? Apple has $200 billion in cash that they're almost doing nothing with. They can afford to install solar panels for almost all their stores, every single building. It doesn't matter. There is a rift between small and big businesses in America. Big businesses has a voice and power. Small businesses, not so much. Don't go praising Jeff Immelt, CEO of GE, for criticizing Trump. He's no angel. They get billions in subsidies from the government. Big businesses cheer any regulations that crush and burden smaller companies because it ensures their longevity. The only ones who benefit from the agreement are big businesses and companies like Tesla, who also get billions of dollars in subsidies from the government. Our country right now is powered 87% by carbon dioxide emitting fuels. Shifting everything to clean power, it's gonna be costly. Not just on building an infrastructure portion, but also upon businesses and consumers as traditional energy sources become more scarce. Now, poor and middle class Americans, especially poor who spend a majority of their income on things like energy bills, will see prices increase, meaning disposable income decreases, which is bad for the economy. People who don't see a major increase in their energy costs will still pay in the forms of hidden costs imposed by businesses through things like the price of goods and services. The increase in the price of energy will cause businesses to not only do things like to raise the prices of their products and services, but there are other negative effects as well. One possible effect is the lowering of wages or the lowering of the amount that they increase them. As costs increase, businesses will search for places to cut costs to make up for the money that they're losing. Another effect could be the loss of jobs or the decrease in hiring. Now, obviously, renewable energy jobs will increase and coal mining jobs will decrease more than they have been over the past decade. But other companies affected by price increases may have to choose between energy costs and hiring new employees or firing the ones that they already have. Worst case scenario, businesses just up and leave the country completely in search of countries where the cost of doing business is cheaper and more affordable. Eventually, clean energy will be cheaper, but for the short term, people will get hurt by a rapid shift in energy to renewables. In the short term, only renewable energy companies will come out on top. Bottom line, there is no debate that our country is shifting towards a more renewable-based energy economy. With the agreement, without the agreement, that's facts. It's good that companies and cities are pledging to continue to stick to the agreement whether the USA is in officially or not, which makes you think, was the agreement even necessary in the first place? Companies and society are able to dictate the changes they want more effectively than any government mandate ever could do. But we cannot forget the people who may be hurt and left behind by the decision and tell them to just suck it up and think of the greater good, stop being such a selfish asshole. People may lose jobs, people may lose money, things could get more expensive. We must be sure to always look out for the negative effects when going forth on any policies, whether it's this or anything else. Now, I don't claim to be an expert on climate change. unlike the hundreds of people on my Facebook and Twitter who apparently are experts. But I do understand economics. Drastic shifts in the economy can have major unintended consequences for thousands or even hundreds of thousands, millions of people, and these are the things that should be seriously considered when talking about things like the Paris Agreement. With or without Paris, we'll become a greener society. That is not a worry of mine. This is only a policy step backwards. As a society, as a country, we'll move forward, we'll make the planet safer for ourselves and for future generations.
And that's the bottom line, because MC Mo said so.
Thank you so much for watching another episode. You can find new and classic episodes of Mo Money right here on YouTube. For now, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. Like me on Facebook. Check out themomoneyshow.com.
Mo Money, signing out.
Turns up to the max, if they pop somebody's chain, then we gotta get it back. No discussion to be had, we ain't going out like that.